And welcome back to my cozy corner of the internet. I'm Mayastar, and today we have another unscripted video where we will be discussing the latest Mayastar updates and answering some of your questions about energy healing and spiritual development. And as usual, I come armed with notes but without a script. So we'll be meandering around the subject and taking the scenic route to enlightenment. If this sounds interesting to you, stick around, give the video a like, and if you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe because I release new videos 3 times a week and new unscripted episodes go live every Saturday. And our first subject for today will be the Orb of Life Energy Healing Attunement course, which is currently on special offer through the Mayastar website. And this system is unique, even compared to traditional Reiki. It is the most accessible and the most versatile, and combines brilliantly with all the other energy healing systems. So this is definitely a course that I recommend for any energy healer, no matter what system you're working with, because the addition of the Orb of Life gives you new ways to work with the techniques that you're used to, and it can open you up to new opportunities with your energy work, such as sending healing back in time for yourself, or programming an orb so that you can receive healing that you send yourself in a format so that it comes to you while you're asleep, and that kind of thing. It's essentially a tool that can be used with any other system or on its own to share subtle energy for the purpose of healing, or to cleanse your tools such as crystals or wands or sacred jewellery. And there's a very simple way to do this using the Orb of Life compared to other systems that might be a bit more complicated with more of a ceremonial approach to that kind of work. So when you're using the Orb of Life system, what you're generally doing is creating a ball of energy that can then be used to receive other types of energy. So as an example, if you were using Usui Reiki and you wanted to send some healing energy distantly in a way that allowed the recipient to receive it at their convenience rather than having to synchronize watches so that you could both be tuned in at the appropriate time, this frees you up to be able to send healing energy and the other person receives it when they're ready to receive it. And the simplest way to do that is to program the orb with maybe a password or a phrase that the person needs to say in order to activate that orb. And that can be a fantastic way of sending distance healing energy. It can also be used without the password for sending healing to animals, or for sending healing to the planet itself or other planets. So if you were to use the Orb of Life to send a distance Reiki session, what you would do is first of all use the Orb of Life system to create the orb, and then using visualization you would charge the orb with the Reiki energy that you wanted to send for the period that you wanted the healing to take place. So if you were sending a 30-minute energy transmission, you'd be communicating that energy to the orb for 30 minutes. and any symbols that you wanted to include in that session. And then at the end, you would seal the orb. That's just intentionally sealing the orb and creating the programming for it to be accessed, whatever method you have agreed with the client. And then you release the orb and they are able to do the rest. The orb will naturally dissolve once the energy has been used. But sending energy healing in that way isn't the only way to use the Orb of Life system. You could also create an orb to act as an antenna for a different energy frequency that you wanted to connect with more deeply. So, for example, if you wanted to connect with the particular energy of a star, planet, a plant, a sacred location on the earth, or a deity, or elemental force, you could create an orb that would act as a conduit for that energy so that you could tap into it more deeply and allow the energy to keep flowing whenever you switch this orb on and off, sort of thing. Now, you can tell as I'm describing it that you do need to have some skill with visualization to work with this system effectively. So it may be a system that you develop more ability with over time if you're not very good at visualization yet. But because it's so dependent on visualization, it does encourage you to develop that skill. If you're working with it regularly, it would really enhance your abilities with visualization. And as I said before, you can use the orb to deliver healing to you while you sleep, using any of your other energy healing systems. Or you could use the orb on its own, but just thinking about systems where you might want to give yourself a healing treatment to balance your chakras overnight while you're asleep. That's something that you could program the orb for. Or you could program it with violet flame energy to clear negative vibrations from your energy field while you sleep, or even from your property while you sleep, like one of those little robot vacuum cleaners going. It might be, I don't know if you would have it going around on the floor, but it could look a little bit like that. You could use a visualization technique to help you. If it helped you to visualize a cleansing orb of life as a little robot vacuum cleaner, you could certainly do that. That wouldn't do any harm. And the Orb of Life course is the special offer for the next week. So at the time of this video going live, that's the time that this offer starts, and it will be running until midnight on Friday. So if you want to purchase the Orb of Life course for the special offer price, you can do that on mayastar.net. You can also read a lot more about the Orb of Life on the website, where I discuss how the orb works and the things that it can be used for. Although I've covered some of the basics here, it's such a versatile tool and it combines so well with other systems. It would be difficult to explain just how versatile it is. For example, like if you were working with a comprehensive system like the Ethereal Crystals Healing course, you could use your orb to connect you with the energy of different crystals, the ethereal energy of different crystals, in order to amplify those vibrations within your aura. And you could also use it for charging and programming crystals by creating the orb, programming the orb, and then merging it into the energy field of the crystal. It's just another way to work when you're used to working with orbs as I am. It's what I do all day, every day when I'm sending attunements to people. And even with some of the spells that I provide for people, the ritual intensives with energy transmissions such as the Yggdrasil intensive, the 21-day chakra healing and light body activation intensive, and some of the special intensives like the Lionsgate Supermoon intensive. That's a VIP one that's running at the moment, but with that there's energy transmission sent during the ceremony, and they're sent using the Orb of Life method so that the client can receive the energy at their convenience rather than tying them to a specific time when I'm completing the ritual. The Orb of Life can also be used for protection. The simplest way to do that would be to create the orb, charge it with whatever energy you wanted to charge it with, staying on the ethereal crystal system. Black tourmaline would be a good idea, and then step into the orb, or make the orb big enough so that it surrounds you or surrounds your property. Again, that's going to be a challenging thing for those that are new to visualization, but once you get used to visualization, there are so many ways of using this tool. I'm sure you'll come up with hundreds of your own. And in other updates, this week I haven't completed a meditation track that's going to accompany the course. Usually I create the meditation track based on the energy healing system that I'm going to be putting on the special offer that week. But this week I haven't done that because the Orb of Life is such a unique system. It doesn't really lend itself to having a particular meditation for it because it's more of a tool than a unique energy frequency. So this week's meditation is inspired by the magical intensive that I'm running for the Lionsgate portal, which is on the 8th. So by the time you see this video, it will have been released, because I obviously need to have that one released in time for the magical intensive when it starts on the 1st of August to coincide with the supermoon. And it's an 8-day ritual, so it goes up to the 8th of the 8th, which is the Lionsgate portal. So this ritual is connected with the Norse goddess Freya, who is the goddess of love and abundance, money, prosperity. She's a great mother goddess, but usually depicted in maiden and mother aspects rather than envisioned as a crone. But she is also a leader of the Valkyries. The Valkyries support and guide those that have passed over and help them to find their place in the afterlife. So as a leader of the Valkyries, she is concerned with some of the darker aspects of life and death cycles. But for this ritual, we're working with her more in the mother aspect, where we're concerned with fertility, abundance, prosperity. And for this ritual, I've combined a number of tarot archetypes in the ritual, as well as a number of runes, which amplify the energy of the season, because the 2nd of August is Lammas, which is the first harvest. It's when we start seeing fruit on trees and things like that. So we're looking at the energy of things coming to fruition, things being completed, success and fulfillment, and your hard work paying off. Now's the time to reap the rewards. So that's the energy that this spell will be amplifying. So the meditation track that I'm currently still working on at the time of recording will be to emphasize those energies. So anybody who wants to connect with those manifesting energies, we're talking about the energy of intentionally changing your reality, putting your intentions out there so that you are aligned with the possibilities that these things can manifest for you, and taking the appropriate actions to move you closer to your goals. So if you work with the law of abundance or the law of attraction or the law of assumption, everyone gives it different names these days, but if you're working with those currents, or you are regularly doing manifesting work such as visualization, visualizing your goals, or using affirmations to align you with your goals, this will be a good meditation to listen to amplify those energies and align you with those possibilities that are just on the edge, just waiting to come in. They're just waiting for you to be ready. And I feel that this meditation is the one that you will benefit the most from. Also, the abundance affinity meditation and the Lakshmi golden good fortune meditation would be good if those are the energies you want to connect with. But definitely give the new meditation a listen. The video version will be released on Wednesday on the main channel, so make sure you set up a notification for that. And I will of course release it as a looped live stream version, which converts to a 12-hour video in the morning and means that you have a version that you can put on and leave playing in the background when you're asleep, so that on a subliminal level you pick up those light codes and are able to integrate them well, because when you're asleep your conscious mind is not resistant to those new codes. And you can even leave the music playing in an empty room, because those light codes carry a unique vibration that changes the energy. It adjusts the energy frequency around you. You don't have to be able to hear it for it to be effective. If you're not in the room, the energy of the room would still be changed by the music. So that's something you can experiment with as well, to see if you can notice the difference in the vibration if you leave it playing when you're not in the room, and then go back in and see if you can feel the difference. So that's all of the updates, and now we'll get to your questions regarding the Orb of Life. I may have to do some of these next week because there are a lot of questions for the Orb of Life. It is a very popular system, and it is one that I've been teaching from very early on. The first question is from somebody asking if the Orb of Life could be used to enhance a telepathic communication that they're attempting with a friend. And although it's not something the Orb of Life was originally designed for, I think that you could use it in that way, because you can use it to amplify energy and connect with different currents. I think it would be a powerful way to explore telepathy with another person. You could create an orb for each of you so that the orbs have a continuous connection, and then you can connect with your immediate orb in order to connect with their orb, rather than trying to connect with them through methods like astral travel and that sort of thing. So it would be another way to experiment for sure, and I think it would be effective. I haven't done it myself, but if I were to do it, I'm pretty sure that would be a powerful way of connecting with somebody else's energy, and you'd pick up impressions. One thing I would say though is, when people ask about telepathy, and it's quite a common thing for people to ask me about, I think they're expecting to be able to read each other's thoughts and communicate with each other in words. And telepathy doesn't usually work like that. I've never heard of a case where it did. Usually what you will do is pick up impressions, feelings, or you might see symbols that express what the other person is doing or thinking. It's more along the lines of interpreting a dream than actually being able to see through their eyes or hear their thoughts in words. So, amplifying the experience by using orb connections between the two of you could certainly help intensify the signal, so to speak, but don't be expecting it to work like a cosmic telephone or something. It wouldn't be like that. But certainly, yeah, that would be a good idea. Definitely try it. If that's something you want to investigate, go ahead, try it. Sounds like a great idea. The second question is from somebody who practices magic and wanted to know if they could create energy orbs, like orb of life orbs, to charge with the elemental energies and leave them permanently set up in their ritual space so that they could just activate them in the same way as activating an orb that you had programmed to be switched on and off. And again, I would say, yes, that's a brilliant idea. You could easily do that because you would create those orbs as both an antenna and a receptacle so that it would act almost like a battery, and it could be charged up so that when you switched it on, you increase the flow of that energy into your ritual space. So yes, I would say that's another great idea. And again, it's going to be a bit challenging for beginners visualizing those kind of things, but this person, that wasn't a consideration because this was part of their practice anyway. They were practicing ritual magic, so it's something they would be familiar with. If you wanted to have an orb that was set up on a long-term basis, that is something you could do. It would just be a case of programming it, using your intentions. It's a good idea to write it down, spell it out in words, so that when you're actually completing the process of setting it up, you don't miss anything. If you've got it written down in front of you, you're less likely to overlook something essential. And the final question is, can I use the orb of life to send healing to my mother who's in hospital? And the person has indicated in their email that the recipient isn't somebody that works with energy healing, although they are open-minded, so they are open to receiving energy healing. And I would say that yes, it is a good idea to use an orb of life in that situation, because you want the recipient to be able to receive the energy when they're ready for it. So all you would need to do is create the orb and program it so that it would be accessed and the energy would be passed on only when the recipient said, I'm ready to receive the energy that my daughter has sent me, or whatever words you chose to activate the orb, and then the energy would pass to them and the orb would dissolve at the end. And you'd be surprised how many people actually see the orb, because I have given other people healing transmissions using the orb of life, and sometimes they actually see the orb appear before the energy transmission begins. So it's quite interesting that even people that aren't very psychic can even pick up on the structure of the orb. And that's all the questions covered, but I've got another thing that I was going to suggest for you if you wanted to combine the orb of life with your manifesting work. And this is something that I have tried and I found it very effective. So I'd definitely recommend trying out this technique. And that is to set up an orb of life when you are completing your manifesting sessions. Now, what they could take different forms. That could be a meditation, a visualization, or affirmations, or a mantra that you use to bring in those energies. And what you can do is create the orb and then read the affirmations to the orb to program it. And then take the orb with you as you go about your daily life with the intention that it keeps you connected with that energy, sort of like a timed release energy current that comes from the orb to you based on your positive affirmations to subtly change your energy field and maintain that high vibration throughout the day. I've done this before. I found it very effective. I've done it with other types of ritual work as well, where I've used words, well, poetry essentially, to program an orb, and I found that very powerful as well. So I would recommend experimenting with different ways of programming an orb, using words, visualization and intention, or perhaps dance or singing. Any method that you use to communicate energy can be used to communicate energy to an orb of life. So that's another reason why they're so versatile and why you can work with them with any system. So I recommend the Orb of Life for anybody who is learning energy work because it adds a dimension of experimentation and allows you to find ways to use energy work that really vibe with you because it's so versatile and there are so many different ways you could use it. So yeah, that's something I would recommend if you wanted to use an orb of life to enhance your manifesting. That would be a good way to do it. And I think that brings us to the end of this week's unscripted video. I hope you've enjoyed your time with me today, and I hope you've had a good week. I hope you're about to have another one, and I'll be back here in a week's time with more mystical meanderings for you. But in the meantime, I wish you peace, prosperity, and progress in all you do. With blessings.